federal judge decided that it was in the public's best interest to release that video. Well, that caused some backlash.
A trained journalist, history expert, and combat photographer in Central America, Cork has 3 decades of treasure hunting experience that began when he was 18.
After Captain Kidd's treasure on an island off the west coast of Vietnam, it was an illegal covert operation. It was one of the darkest moments of my life. I was held for 11 months, and 7 of those I was in solitary confinement.
Greetings and welcome to one of the 5 Acres and a Moose podcasts. And today I have with me Shane Iverson. Welcome, Shane. How you doing, buddy?
I'm doing good, brother. How about yourself?
Excellent. What I'd like to talk with you about today is for those of us who are out here in the homestead. I'd like you to give a quick brief on your background, and from there we'll go into a general idea of considerations to deal with in terms of securing your homestead. What type of considerations can those be in terms of the size of the homestead, whether it's a large one or it's a small one under 5 acres, meaning that you have people who might be closer to you than actually having the opportunity to have further range out and have some kind of buffer of distance from people. So Shane, tell me about your background when it comes to the military and law enforcement.
Well, you and I have been friends for long time. You've drugged me into this this world of social media and things like that, and that's cool. I'll only do it for you and maybe one or two.
Thank you, brother. Thank you.
So this is totally impromptu, so it is what it is. My background is this. I spent 27 years in the military. I started off in the Marine Corps. I was with the 1st Battalion, 1st Marines. I was a mortarman and went to the Scout Sniper Platoon. Went to Desert Shield, blah, blah, blah. I didn't think there really was going to be a war back then. You and I were the same age. It's like, oh, there's going to be a political solution, blah, blah, blah. I'm like, in October of 90, I was like, oh, they gave me the opportunity, and I'd already made my decision. I was going to go in the Army after, which I did, went into Special Forces. Anyway, long story short, Marine Corps, Army Special Forces, Dallas Police Department, back to Special Forces during GWAT. And then ended up over at GRS with working with the agency and everything like that. So retired back in 2015. I think it's about the time I quit contracting with GRS, and we moved out here to East Texas, and just been kind of living the life of a country squire. For the past up until from 2015 out to here, roughly ballpark figure there. I had a short stint. When you're a Green Beret, you're always, we're the original. What did Obama used to call himself? A community organizer.
Oh yeah.
SF is the original gangster OG. Community organizer.
Yeah.
So kind of got bored doing bass fishing and hunting all the time. And I got brought into a political race for the sheriff's, one of the local sheriff's office in the neighboring county. Then I did about 2 years working for them. Got a deadly force encounter. I'm a shit magnet. For those people out there that don't know you, or that the naysayers for our backgrounds, I know you're a shit magnet, so you know what I mean. We just find ourselves in bad places and at the wrong time. Anyway, that's going on, and that's kind of probably one of the reasons you call me tonight.
Because the shit's going down, and
Well,
that
the
brings us
shit's
to the
going
question
down.
of like, what would you do
Yeah.
with the projected violence that's going to be coming out in it's going to be in the cities. We know that, and that's the reason we live in the country. And we knew
Correct.
this a long time ago. But the question is, what do we do in preparation now? Because we have a time delay in order to prepare for that type of violence that will be trickling out from the urban areas.
Yeah, we do, and I've had to kind of accelerate, the security profile of my little acreage here. I've got a complex problem. Uh, my little AO covers the border of two different counties.
Mm-hmm.
My house is about a mile and a half from a main MSR, a main supply route here in East Texas. I'm not going to give a lot of details. So and then we have some acreage up there where the primary ranch is,
Mm-hmm.
about 20 minutes away from my primary homestead. But we've had a kind of a dry run, a rehearsal. Luckily my training and everything has kicked in, and unfortunately for myself and my family here recently,
Yeah.
with that deadly force encounter that I had in law enforcement about 2.5 years ago. Actually, in September, it'll be maybe 2.5 years ago.
Mm-hmm.
A federal judge decided that it was in the public's best interest to release that video. Well, that caused some backlash.
Yeah.
I've got extra patrols from the county sheriff's office. Apparently I'm not that hard to find. I've had some people call me directly on my phone. He was real badass. I'm not hiding from you. You're a coward. You killed a dude, blah, 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 whatever.
Mm-hmm.
The sheriff's department's gotten police or gotten threats against serving officers. After that, man, I'm you and I are close to the same age. You're a little bit older than me because
Mm-hmm.
you're just an old fart.
Yeah.
I'm just kidding. But I'm like, man, I'm 57 years old. I'm rolling around in the on a county road with no comms, and it's just me and this dude. And anyway, long story short, I decided to retire, doing ranch and land management, which also my partner with the ranch up not too far from us is a former SF guy as well.
Mm-hmm.
We grew up together in regiment and then the whole 9 yards.
So in terms of your security, how do you guys brainstorm together on something like that? Because you do have a pretty prime piece of real estate that you've designed for training people.
Yeah, and that's incorporated in it. And long story short, my primary residence is more of a security issue.
Mm-hmm.
than those places there. That's kind of
so when you talk about that in a general form, what are the concerns that you have? Because it seems so in terms of acreage that you have and the terms of visibility, what are the considerations?
Well, for my primary residence,
Mm-hmm.
I'm offset from a main thoroughfare.
Yeah.
Probably a mile and a half. Currently, there's projections that they're going to turn the highway that's about a mile and a half to my due east into a major Texas highway, i.e. indicative of, it feeds out of Houston and comes all the way up to, up to Oklahoma.
Mm-hmm.
So in between that stretch, that's kind of where I'm at. I'm a mile offset from that. However, I'm also on a corner lot. My primary residence, I've got I'm on a corner lot, so I've got two main high-speed avenues of approach coming into that.
Mm-hmm.
How we're dealing with that is, I got all the security cameras back up and running.
What type of technology are you running in terms of
basic simple stuff. We've got Ring at the front door.
Okay.
I can't remember. There's an online. I can't remember the app off the top of my head. I'd have to look at my phone. I'm not going to do that right now. I'm not going to do a shameless plug for someone that's not paying me for nothing. Uh, but we've got cameras that are, pretty. It was very reasonable. Uh, the little IR capability, watching the driveway, watching the back door, watching the shop door, which is offset. So my primary residence is about 3 acres. We're running. I got geese, so I got geese, chickens, goats. I don't do a lot here. Our primary focus, primarily, so what I've done is increase that. I stay up late. Get up early. Uh, you know, Placed weapon systems throughout the house. My wife's a former cop out of Massachusetts and out of Fort Worth PD.
Mhm.
I spent 11 years with Dallas PD, a bunch of years in the military. So we're all pretty well trained. My wife and I are pretty well trained in being able to respond to a deadly force or a potential threat.
Yeah.
We've set up rehearsals. Hey, I'm gonna address the threat head on. We've had a couple little things throughout the year. And that's when I knew I was getting old. I had a crackhead come up in my yard wanting to play basketball with my son. Kind of chased him off, and he was hinky and pulled a hammy trying to chase after the bastard when he got on my property. And
Yeah.
anyway, I'm a shit magnet. This stuff just continues to come. So the skills that I learned in special operations, or I won't even say that because I'm not a cat guy. I'm a special forces soldier. The training I got there as a police officer, all this stuff. Um, so we have a heightened sense of security here. I've got some good dogs. I got the geese. So if shit's going on outside and the dogs are acting funky, I will react to that. I'll grab a pistol, at least kind of do a primary survey from inside the house, looking
Mhm.
out towards the intersection of the two county roads that intersect in front of my house. I'll check the backyard. I've rehearsed things on how I'm going to address, something going in on the backyard. I'm not going to open the garage door. I'm going to try to maintain an element of surprise. A measured address of a potential threat. I've already thought through all this stuff. How I'm going to do it. I'm going to put space between me and a potential threat. And basically it's where my vehicle is parked out in the driveway.
Okay.
Uh, I've thought through this. It's easy. It's second nature. And I realize most people don't have the body of tactical or well, at this level it's
Mhm.
tactical experience that I have. So I don't want to directly confront anybody in my driveway. The way it's all set up, I have my courses of action already pre-planned.
So in your
Uh,
levels of sensory awareness to the outside or an intrusion, you've got the video cams that are immediate, which means you get a warning alarm on your phone. And then from there you have also your geese. And then once you get past the geese, you've got the dogs.
yeah. The dogs are inner perimeter. The way my property's set up, I got a couple different layers of fences.
Okay.
Uh, uh, you know, so and then there's that, and then so I move between two different counties
Hmm.
often. Obviously, I maintain I'm
Yeah.
always armed, especially here of recent. Yeah, I try to put the war behind me from 2015, and especially when I was doing police work up to a couple of years ago. Here, I got in that little comfort zone of like the guns in the car. But with this latest threat, it's like, hey, this strap up again, man. You never know.
And that's one
Uh,
of the issues is that people actually get lax, especially when you do live in the country and you don't think about those things, right? So it's like
yeah, yeah.
if we were to because we got about what 5 more minutes left, if we were to get like a good brief on like how people should address, we can't give them the answers right now, but we can actually give them the questions that they should be answering when they look at their property. If you had like 10 questions for them to ask themselves, or even 5 questions to ask themselves, what would they be if they were to appraise their property in terms of what
Okay.
do they have and what do
Well,
they not have?
and not to get too much into military jargon, but a COCA, hey, what are my fields of observation?
Uh-huh.
Okay. What are my obstacles?
Yep.
All right. Do I have obstacles? All
Mm-hmm.
right. If you put obstacles out there, they have to be observed. So
Yep.
my obstacles are this, my fences. Okay. I've got video surveillance on my fence lines, on my front door,
Mm-hmm.
which is the most vulnerable part of my property.
Yep.
Someone could drive up and start banging on that door. So you have to Ococa is what it is. It's two O's.
Mm-hmm.
Google it. Do whatever you want to. Do all that good stuff. And live by those principles, because you can't have obstacles if you can't observe them. The obstacles are out there to slow and or deter
Mm-hmm.
a potential threat.
Yeah.
If you're not observing them, it doesn't do you any damn good to do anything like that.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
So, I basically build my property and go by that basic principle. Sorry, you caught me relaxing. I ain't even got my shoes on.
That's what I ambush you. Okay.
Yeah. But it's a layered defense.
Yeah.
Try to establish some sort of early warning system. And then if there's a direct assault on your primary breach point,
Yep.
Be able to react to that. I've kind of told her in here, she's going to get on comms, start dialing 911.
Yep.
I told my son, you go with your mom, stay in there, bunker down. I've already picked hard points in my room where I can cover, or in my home where I can cover hard points or potential breach points, and hold what I got.
Mm-hmm.
And now when you're talking more rural, the property that we have up the road about 20 minutes now, that's a whole greenside operation there.
Yeah.
And I guess we're running out of time. I can't believe we're already gone as long as we have, but
that's what that whiskey does, man.
Yeah, well, it's a time accelerator. But up there, there's a lot of thought process, and that's where John and I get together. We have right of ways going through there with power lines, and we've deliberately done a lot of things to obscure, camouflage what we have on the property.
Mm-hmm.
The range is offset 1.5 miles off of any main road.
Yeah.
The property is offset about 0.5 mile with one main avenue of approach off that. We've only had it about 1.5 years, 2 years since we've had structures on the property. And, we discuss regularly, how do we address that? I'm not out there all the time. I mean, I'm out there very often, usually during the day, but hours of darkness, how do we do that? And it's leveraging electronic surveillance and things like that. And at least here's the most important thing. Okay. And again, going back to the Ococa principle, you can have deterrences, and if you can get real time, warning, you can react appropriately. The big problem is everybody's like, oh, I've got video. Hey, that's fantastic. But it's also like it's also like calling the cops. By the
It's a
time the
false sense of
cops,
so it's a false sense of security. That's what I look at it, because people will
it's
just
a,
rely on that thinking that's a
yeah,
defense, and it's not a defense.
it's not. It is. It's going to document whatever the fuck happens.
Yeah, yeah,
But it is not going to interfere with any direct action or that is taken by you or any kind of perpetrator. So if you want to document and back up whatever you're going to say on the second end, hell, again, I got a very detailed lesson in that, talking to the Texas Rangers and my body cam and my video camera from my car, all that good stuff. Uh, but video is great, but it's capturing what's happening.
yeah. In the fight, it doesn't really help you, but at the initial breach, it does, and that's how to think about it. And people don't think about that; they rely on that as kind of like the defense itself.
Yeah, it's not a defense.
No.
It's just documenting.
It's just documentation. Yeah,
it's being able to articulate, this happened, I did this is why, and you can potentially save yourself and actually validate and that you were being defensive in your actions.
Yeah.
Anything other than that, video isn't going to save your ass.
Yeah.
It's you have to have a plan of action. You and I have lived this our entire lives. You got to have a plan of action, man.
So Shane, you used to be doing some heavy duty contracting, consulting, training people in terms of self-defense with firearms. What are you doing these days in terms of educating?
Well, I've kind of retired from that gig. Really what I'm focused on these days is kind of the best way to decide or to describe it for SF people is, foreign internal defense, except it's domestic internal defense. Regardless of all the mechanisms that you put around your home, like we talked about here, just here shortly or a little while ago, all that's great. And, preppers, it's real simple. You can't maintain by yourself or with a small group, especially my wife and my son. You can't maintain 24/7 security.
Yeah.
Okay. It's not, somebody's got to sleep, everybody's got to sleep, period. And it's just not realistic to have your wife and family, pulling fire watch in your own home. That's a big hurdle to get around. The big thing is you have to build a community, and again, it's going back to what I said earlier. SF is the original community organizers, to borrow Obama's term. That fucking communist. Anyway, so the point is, what I've been doing here recently is I don't do. I'm not doing commercial classes or anything like that. I'm focused on. I got a core group of folks that I've been working with for the past 6-8 months, and we're working on tactics, techniques, and procedures.
Yep.
Not only the shooting portion, but the planning portion, because you and I both know that when it gets into here and coming up with a plan, I've taken my home defense plan and trying to exponentially spread that out amongst these individuals and try to make them understand. And that's always been the strength, man. We turn everyday Joe into some badasses. That's what we do. People that have the desire or can see the writing on the wall. How do we leverage that? With knowledge,
Mm-hmm.
with experience, and with a little bit of training. So I'm leveraging friends and neighbors to be able to come together in a way to assist one another should some kind of drastic emergency occur.
Mm-hmm.
The cool thing about that is that camaraderie and going through all that doesn't just stop or doesn't just focus on worst case scenario.
Yeah.
It builds community relationships and trust with individuals.
Mm-hmm.
I'm focused on a cadre of guys and gals that, kind of can see this. And if and when that, the scenario that we all think is coming occurs, at least we have, handful of people that we can count on.
Mm-hmm.
We're talking about communications, all the basic, there's nothing high speed, all these instructors out there that are like, oh, come and learn advanced shooting techniques. There ain't no such thing as advanced shooting. Right? It's the execution of the fundamentals.
Exactly.
And be able to do that under pressure.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
So using that same basic concept, now refining that to be able to put together a plan to describe in an efficient manner, hey, what's my current threat? Can you help me?
Mm-hmm.
So it's community organizing.
Yeah.
And we're focused on that. And with this current group, we're focused on those hard skills,
mm-hmm.
but I'm starting to introduce those softer skills.
And how are you defining softer skills?
Well, shoot, move, and communicate is hard skills.
Mm-hmm.
But I had a really interesting conversation with one of my students or one of my friends. Just a East Texas young man. He's a freaking stud.
Mm-hmm.
I've gravitated to him. If he wouldn't have been, I don't want to slag anybody down, but I don't know how many times you've heard this, but I've heard it many times. And it's not a slag. And he said, oh, I really wanted to go in the Marine Corps or the Army or something, but I didn't,
Mm-hmm.
Well, okay, cool. No big deal. But the hard skills are easy to teach. Those
mm-hmm.
nuanced skills, those advanced special operation skills, those are the hard things to teach. And we had a probably an hour and a half long conversation. He's like, well, in those gray areas, I kind of referenced that movie I've been telling you to watch.
Yeah.
I'm not going to mention it, but he's like, hey, I watched that. And well, how do you tell the bad guys from the good guys? How do you sort out your neighbor that is in opposition to your beliefs?
Mm-hmm.
You can't just go slaying everybody.
Mm-hmm.
You got to take into, first, second, and third order effects of your actions. So we're starting to get into that portion, which is extremely nuanced. But the hard skills, that comes easy. These guys are studs. You give me another, we really only kind of get together one day a month. But if I had you for a week, these cats they'd be a handful for, mm-hmm. a lot of people. But with this compressed time frame that you and I both feel that we have, I'm working on both. So it's a real challenge.
And we're talking months, and that's what's so concerning about all this stuff. I mean, it's great that you're doing all the hard skills you're talking about, when we talk about soft skills, I mean, I'll take it back to Nicaragua. One of the issues, I'm starting to talk more about this, which for instance, we had to watch out about American personnel of whatever type, from whatever group, whatever agency, getting shot in the back because they couldn't. They thought they had a good guy in their team, and suddenly they got shot for their weapon, and the guy ran off into the jungle with that weapon.
Yeah, and GY. I mean, we've there's plenty of examples of blue on blue.
Mm-hmm.
It's become known.
Yeah.
In modern parlance,
Mm-hmm.
There's plenty of examples of blue on blue. There. I mean, you know how complex it is to build resistance. There's a lot of things you got to take into. It's a lot of pressure on me.
But when we're talking about the soft skills, we're talking about the idea of people being able to clarify who is actually a team member or who is questionable and who is an actual agent from the other side.
Exactly. And the question that this young man hit to me, how do we deal with that?
Yeah.
It's like, it's all situational, man.
Mm-hmm. And that's wisdom. That's combat wisdom. I call it combat wisdom. You can only get that through experience. You can be taught, you can be given the manual, you can be taught to read it. It's like these guys who come out of interrogation schools, and it's like, a debriefing school on being able to talk to somebody and being able to get the right information out of them, and paying attention to the nuances you're talking about. And people will say, well, that's just like supercraft. And it's like, why should we even think about that? But those are people skills that are so lost right now because of technology, and how technology is not like, you talk to a grandparent or somebody of that time period, they had talked to so many people that they innately can understand and read a person, say, I want this person in my circle, and that person I definitely don't want in my circle.
And
that was just natural.
And taking that same, how do you deal? And that's what I was asked. How do you deal with that person that you don't want in your circle?
Yeah.
How do you deal with it? I mean, the layman's going to say, kill him.
Yeah.
Oh, well, what's the second, third order effects of that action?
Exactly. And the question is that in terms of the circle, it's like, if you have people working together and there's a person that's, quote, in the location, but is not actually part of what you would consider your team, how do you deal with them? For two reasons. One is not alienate them, because they could still be an asset to you. But secondly, also do not get them in a situation where they become an actual enemy.
True.
Right.
Exactly. So how do you deal with that? And that's where I've gotten these guys.
Okay.
They're thinking, it's not just the hard skills. Now it's the real teaching. And as well as I do that, that's a hard thing to teach, from someone that hasn't been in that. Yeah. We watched that movie I told you to watch, and my oldest son, who just went into the Army, literally he's somewhere getting smoked at Fort Benning. They watched this movie and they looked at me and like, Dad, have you seen stuff like this? And I'm like, yeah, I have. Well, how do you deal with it? And I'm like, it's not super easy, man. These people that are vying for, Civil War, we're going to succeed. It's the same shit that started in 1861. Was it 61 where Sumter got attacked?
But the difference is that was actually secession, and this would be Civil War, more along the lines of the American Revolution, which was neighbor against neighbor across the whole country. There's no border. There's no territory.
And I expressed to this guy is like, hey, literally with within 150 meters of my house.
Yeah.
There's a friend of mine, my neighbor,
Mm-hmm.
who is like-minded, but his brother-in-law moved in from somewhere else.
Mm-hmm.
And and my wife's got this beautiful 10 by 6 Trump flag hanging from the side of her house that faces this guy, and
Mm-hmm.
he is a diehard Biden Harris supporter.
Wow.
So how do I deal with that?
Mm-hmm.
You know, this is the reality of, you know, what people are, you know, flippantly advocating.
Yeah.
Or I mean, this is what's going to have to be dealt with.
Mm-hmm.
These kind of situations. Do I just go over there one night and, you know,
Smoke them.
do bad things? do I do that?
Yeah.
Or can I control it?
And that's the thing. It's a big question because, you know, like I did a reading of our family tree, and I read about like one of my ancestors that very likely he was on the receiving end from a Tory, you know, a loyalist, and got smoked. And as a result of that, everybody else in the family went to go fight at King's Mountain, and they killed a bunch of Tories. Yeah. So you've got the revenge killings that are they're gonna be there.
Yeah.
And people, you know, it's funny. People go into the country because they want peace. They go into the country thinking that you're going to get away from it. Nobody is going to get away from this. It's just that you're going to have to deal with a lower level of intensity than you would if you're in the city. Because if you're in the city, it's going to be freaking Planet of the Apes. But if you're in the country, you're going to have kind of like, okay, we have a community here.
You're going to have to be nuanced. You're going to have to be nuanced.
Yeah. Just even to get out of the city.
Yeah, that
just to get out. I mean, if you're going to make a break, if you're going to quote bug out, that's what I'm blown away how many people are still, they've got this mentality. They're going to bug out. And it's like, man, you should already be bugged in by now.
Well, you know, and God bless that dude that you sent me that video, and he's right on the money. You know, what was it, the Green Beret guide?
Valhalla, the Valhalla channel, yeah. Mm-hmm.
No, I don't know if it was Valhalla.
He's a Green Beret. He's also a Green Beret.
Yeah. You know, it was like, hey, get out to the woods.
Yeah.
You know, I'm like, that makes sense. You got 72 hours to get out of a major metropolitan area where you're going to stand a chance.
Yeah.
Because anyway, we're going down a long, dark rabbit hole.
Yeah.
You know, to go back to, you know, some of the key questions you asked me. You know, how do I defend, you know, my place?
Yeah,
interesting things. You know, going back to my acreage that my partner and I have, you know, 20 minutes away, which is my potential bug out area, because, you know, if it gets really bad, my home is untenable.
Yeah.
It's untenable.
Like most homes are. I mean, even in the rural areas it's hard if it's not set up.
If I'm not sitting outside with my nods and my thermals, and all my kit that I have, you know, I'm a human being. I'm going to fall asleep. You know, I gotta sleep, because sleep deprivation is one of the worst, you know, debilitators that there are out
there. That's how accidents happen. Yeah.
Accidents happen, and, you know, bad things happen like that. So going back to, you know, what I'm doing is I'm trying to stuff 15 years of combat, of special operations combat, of unconventional warfare combat into all these people. It's virtually impossible.
Yeah.
So but, you know, what you're trying to do here in this video, and why you called me and caught me flat fucking footed when I'm drinking whiskey. No, you're going to get the
we just want a quick general, like, you know, cheat sheet that you got to have these checked off.
There ain't, man. You got to search your fucking soul.
Yeah.
Search your soul. And if your soul tells you this dude needs to go, you you better be willing to be able to sleep with that,
Yeah.
because it may or may not be the right answer.
Mm-hmm.
And people don't understand what they're, oh, Civil War, we're going to come, the Proud Boys, all these guys are running around and all that. Not slagging them. I get where they're coming from.
Mm-hmm.
I get it. Hey man, we're young and dumb and full of cum, and we got these bright shirts, and we're going to slay, the communists. I get it. I get it. But if we don't want to go the way of China,
Yeah.
we're dunce caps on people and berating them and breaking them in public, and then sending them off to a gulag for re-education if we don't execute them. How do we avoid that? I mean,
Yeah.
just look at the French Revolution.
Yeah.
Look at Haiti.
Yeah. That went the wrong way. Yeah.
Well, I mean,
we were so lucky with the way our revolution came around. And it wasn't even a revolution. People call it a revolution. Internationally, it was a revolution. But locally and domestically, it was a civil war. And it was between the Brits with the Brits. Yeah.
Yeah. So, but I mean, there's so many different ways of looking at this. Yeah. The French Revolution bred the Haitian Revolution. So
I just got a text from one of our Dr. Goobler is reading my chapter on the 338.6 in the Nosler Reloading book.
Good for him.
It's not the 35 Whalen. He's
drinking check out my buddy Paul Phillips, man. He came out. He's on this international shooting team. Now, old bear, that's what we called him, because he had a big bear head, and I always so mad at him because the first time I went down with heat exhaustion in Thailand, he was my scout buddy.
Oh, who was?
Paul Phillips.
Okay.
And he is a big time. He just posted some training here. Let's see if I can find it. Hang on 1 second. Give Paul because this dude's a legit long range shooter.
Are you texting me a number, or are you calling him?
No, I'm just giving it to you. He was Paul Phillips, back from KO, and I don't know what all these long range shooting things are.
Oh, gotcha.
From KO1M, South Africa, and
okay, cool.
Yeah,
cool.
He's one of the big wigs there.
Hey, so let's square away these people before we pass out.
Well, you got pigs to feed. Me,
I got pigs to feed.
You took me away from
today.
Look, you took me away from the Patriots game, bro.
Dude, the bread and circuses, we know about that shit. Stop it.
I don't care.
What are you? Are you a gladiator, or are you a centurion?
Are you really fucking asking me that question? I'm centurion enough.
Good enough. That's all I gotta hear.
Centurion enough that I can watch the gladiators fucking slay.
Dang, I can't believe we win another. Oh wow, man, we've been flying again. Okay, this is gonna be a full hour. Okay. So let's give them a 5-point review of their property. 5-point to secure them initially in terms of threats.
Look up Okoka, all right?
Yeah.
Find your weak spots.
Okoka.
Mm-hmm. Okoka. Look up for that.
Yep.
Whatever your gaps are.
Does it pass that test? Yeah.
Well, I mean, you're going to find gaps.
Yeah.
Try to cover them electronically.
Yep.
Try to obstacles don't do you any good unless you can observe them.
Exactly.
Right. Be able to observe them. Do whatever you can to initiate early warning to give you time to react.
Mm-hmm.
When I used to teach cadets going through OCS, reaction to near ambush.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. What was that? And I'm sort of drinking, but it really comes down to this: is distance equals options, or distance equals time, time equals options.
Yeah.
Okay. The nearer you are to the enemy, the less options you got. All you can do near ambush, what do? Turn, assault through.
Yep.
Period.
Yep.
That's all you can do.
Yep.
If it's a far ambush, now you can start maneuvering.
Yep.
Okay. So distance equals time, time equals options. Period. That's all there is to it. So the more time you can buy yourself, the more options you give yourself.
Yep.
Leverage your neighbors, leverage your friends, build a cohesive element that can come to assist you.
Yep.
Okay?
So we're also talking about communications, having everybody's number that you'd be able to say, hey, somebody's coming down the way. Who is that? Do you know who that is?
And you know, that video you sent me made a really good point. You really have to do some studying into communications.
Yeah.
First things to go in a bad situation, internet's gone.
Internet's gone. Cell phones are gone.
Gone. How are you going to communicate?
Yeah. How many people in your neighborhood have radios to communicate with each other?
Yeah. How are you going to send up that red flare? Hey, you know, PACE plan, primary, alternate, contingency, and emergency. My primary communication plan is this. My alternate communication plan is this. My and my contingency plan is this, and my emergency plan is this. If I'm shooting a red flare in the air, and fuck, how many people got red pen flares? You know?
Yeah. And they're cheap. They're cheap.
Yeah. Well, I mean, you may need to do that. Hey, if you see that red flare goes up, I need some help. Yeah. But that's only so far. You know, where I live, I've got 15, 20 miles between, you know, my cohorts. So those are real obstacles that have to come in. And then there are, you know, there's some significant communication obstacles that have to come in. And then we're not even starting to talk about being able to encrypt that kind of conversation. Yeah. You know, secure comms. Yeah. Because phones and text is going to be shut off. Email is going to be shut off. Yeah. So if your primary is, I'm going to call you, I'm going to text you, I'm going to send you an email. That's just it's not going to work.
It's not going to happen. Yeah. So let's do that. Let's close out. Thanks, Shane. And let's talk about comms. Because I think everybody talks about the guns. Everybody wants to get the immediate reaction. They're not even thinking about communications. They're thinking about the latest gun they're going to have. They're thinking about, like, you know, what big dog am I going to have? But just to be able to communicate with the community you're supposed to be creating, and people aren't even there because people don't think about communication and connectivity with other humans. And I think that's part of the reason that we have such a technologically
that especially in a rural environment.
Because people live in the country, they want to get away from people.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You know, that adds a different layer of complexity to the question that you've asked. Yeah. That's going to take research. That's going to take, real research, and it's going to take effort.
And that's the thing, effort. Do people it's hard enough for people to introduce each other to each other. You know, just as a hello, how you doing kind of thing. I mean, on our road, I always wave to each vehicle, and people always wonder why I do that. And I'll tell you, it's two reasons. One is if it's somebody I know, I'm acknowledging them.
IFF, man.
What's that?
It's basic IFF. Yeah. Identification of friendly forces, man.
And the other one is that if it's a meth head, if it's a crackhead going down trying to case the neighbor, all the homesteads along the country road, they know that I saw them. It's not an idea of like, oh, well, he just passed me, he didn't see me. And I said, no, man, I saw you and I waved. So that means you better not be coming around my place because I know you're there. Yeah. Okay. And that's the actual aspect of what I'm looking at is the ability that a lot of people don't pay attention. They think, oh, well, I'm going to wave, or I don't want to wave because I shouldn't be doing that because that might be an invitation to communicate. When in actuality, it's a recognition. It's a recognition.
It's IFF.
Yeah.
It's IFF.
Yeah.
Identification of friendly forces.
Okay.
When you ignore me, who the hell was that?
Yeah, exactly. That's exactly it.
You know, a perfect, real. I just had that happen today.
Uh-huh.
A former neighbor.
Yep.
I know some things about her that have, you know, through the years that I've lived out here,
Uh-huh.
and I saw her waving up the road, and she's kind of distanced herself from us.
Okay.
And in I won't say a dubious manner, but in a suspicious manner.
Mm-hmm.
Driving by, I see her truck, I wave.
Huh.
Oh,
Interesting.
no, you've gone to the dark side.
So, and that's the thing, and it's recognition. It's a two-way street, and if you don't have that back and forth, that means something's up. So that for you is the one who's actually waved and no response back. Something is up. So what could that be? And you'll find that out later. Yeah.
Yeah. It's that simple.
Yeah.
You know.
But other people, they put those blinders on, and all they want to do is they just drive that thing and be on the opposite. So you got two people driving past it. They don't communicate. They don't recognize each other. And if you have that situation in a community, and when I say a community, you could have your next neighbor could be 10 miles away from you, but that's part of your community, even if it's 10 miles away. The idea that might be the person that you might have to run for 10 miles to get them to help you or to help them. If you see their house on fire and you see smoke going up, the automatic response, if you got a radio, would be to communicate with them. But if communications didn't break down, you would call them and say, hey, are you okay over there?
Well, yeah,
just to find out.
And you know, you're up way up north.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know if everybody knows where you're at, but and that is a viable. I'm anywhere from 500 to 1,000 meters away.
Yeah.
From my nearest neighbor.
Mm-hmm.
So my reaction time is going to be quite a bit
quicker. Yeah.
Than yours would be.
Mm-hmm.
However, you know, what's my, you know, like the guy over here that's 150 meters away.
Yeah.
I see his house go up.
Yeah.
Fuck
and
you.
that's actually, so, you know, in a good way, it's also self-preservation. I mean, if an ember from that house could catch onto your house, and then you're in trouble too. So you want to respond. I mean, this is the whole thing. There is a good thing when self-interest comes up. Self-interest is you're helping each other. That's self-interest too.
It's self-interest, but it's also is like, you know, when you save someone's ass.
Yeah.
And again, it goes back to those nuances that we talked about earlier. When you save someone's ass or assist them in a significant manner.
Yeah.
Now, significant is wide open to interpretation. Okay. Man, you pull a calf.
Yep. And we got a few seconds right now, so I'm going to have to cut that one.
You help pull a calf. Okay.